Hey guys, so today we have chapter 19 of AMSCO. It is the last one in time period 6, and it's probably going to be pretty short because a lot of the big stuff in here we've already covered, and this is more just kind of a recap of the politics and the presidents throughout this era. So the two parties, the Republicans, the Democrats, we see a lot of seesawing, just meaning Republicans win, Democrats win, Republicans, it goes back and forth. And a big reason for this is there's not a whole lot separating them when it comes to the big issues. A lot of the things they disagree about are like local, smaller things about prohibition of alcohol, education, things like that. This is a period of very high voter turnout. A big reason for that is patronage, or this idea that if you're loyal to your party, you'll be rewarded with a job in the government or something like that. So we'll see a division in the Republican Party. These are kind of weird names. I don't think you'd have to know these for the AP exam or anything, but really focused around different leaders within the party. We call them the stalwarts and the half-breeds. The stalwart, that group of Republicans, tended to favor patronage, giving government jobs in exchange for loyalty. Whereas the other group, the half-breeds, are going to be the ones that are moving more towards civil service reform, which is where you have to take an exam, prove you're qualified to hold government positions. So Garfield is elected for the Republicans. His vice president is Chester Arthur. Garfield is going to end up being shot by one of these angry party members who did not get a job after Garfield was elected. So he was part of that other wing of the party. He's angry that he didn't get the job he thought he was entitled to. So he shoots Garfield at a train station. Garfield hangs on for several weeks. It's kind of crazy. So he got shot. The bullet was lodged in his torso and they couldn't find it. So this doctor is like digging around in his wound. Sorry if this is nasty, without sterilizing anything. And he ends up getting an infection and dying after weeks and weeks of laying there. They even brought in Alexander Graham Bell with his metal detector invention to try to find the bullet. But every time he would pass it over him, it would just go haywire and he couldn't figure out why. Come to find out, right before he died, they figured out, oh, he's on a metal spring mattress. That is what is setting off the metal detector. So they couldn't find the bullet. So poor Garfield dies this horrible death because no one could find the bullet and he dug around in there with dirty hands. So he died from the infection from the bullet wound. Either way, now that he is gone, they say we have to fix this. We can't have angry, thwarted office holders shooting presidents because of this spoil system. So a really important act is passed called the Pendleton Act, where they establish tests, exams, where you have to prove you are competent to hold these positions. It's not just the president or the politician gets to choose all of these low-level positions. The bad part of this is it does drive politicians to business leaders for funding for campaigns. We know now that is a big part of elections, especially on the national level, which may or may not be a good effect of this. Arthur is not going to be renominated, Chester Arthur. I didn't put a picture of him up here, but he does not serve a term other than the one he finished out for Garfield. This cartoon's that Puck magazine we've looked at before. This is the Civil Service Reform Bill. It's a snowball that is rolling down the hill, and underneath it, it says setting the ball a-rolling. It's crushing underneath the snowball all of these people who had been benefiting from patronage. So this is one big change in politics that we see, that people are going to have to be qualified for positions. You don't just get rewarded because you donated money or whatever. James G. Blaine becomes the Republican candidate. This election, there's a lot of mudslinging because Blaine has some corrupt dealings. It is the Gilded Age, after all. Grover Cleveland is nominated by the Democrats, mainly because he's squeaky clean. He's a reformer, good reputation. They think he's a safe candidate, especially up against Blaine. The only thing they get on him, which is a big one, is that he has a child with a woman who was not his wife. So that becomes kind of the target of the mudslinging from the other side. He ends up winning. Grover Cleveland wins. All of the presidents in this period, this whole Gilded Age, big business era, we could say it's laissez-faire, which I'm sure you've heard this term before. It just means that the government is not involved in regulating the affairs of individuals or businesses. So someone said it once, they think of it like lazy. They're just being lazy, like hands off, you deal with it. That's why a lot of people are opposed to government regulation of Standard Oil and railroads, because they feel it's not the government's job to intervene. We also see these hard and soft money debates. You read in this in the chapter. This can get really confusing, even for me, and I've learned about it forever. It boils down to the hard money people want gold to be the only thing backing up our money. The soft money, which tended to be lower class individuals, farmers, want more money in circulation so that there's more money to go around. If you think about it, if you're poor, you want more money to go around. For that to happen, we need gold and silver or paper money. This Greenback Party is going to form. They backed the paper money that was used back in the Civil War. And they get a pretty large third party showing. They get a lot of people elected and a lot of votes, even though they end up dying out. So that hard versus soft money, we really see in the 1896 election with the gold and silver, but this is just kind of the beginnings of that. Cleveland, when he takes office, the tariff, which remember is a tax on imports, is extremely high. So what ends up happening is our federal government, the Treasury, has just this huge surplus, extra money just piled up. Like, that's not good if you're the average American and you're poor, yet the government has piles and piles of extra money they gained off the tariff. Cleveland proposes lowering it, which is not going to be popular with northern manufacturers, and that becomes the main issue in the next election. So in that election, we have Cleveland running against the Republican candidate Benjamin Harrison, who is the grandson of William Henry Harrison, who died after like 30 days in office. And big business, who stood to lose a lot if they lowered the tariff, of course, is going to pour money into Benjamin Harrison's campaign to defeat Cleveland. So he wins. Cleveland will be back. He's the only president elected to non-consecutive terms. We call Congress under Benjamin Harrison the $1 billion Congress, because it's the first Congress in U.S. history to allocate over $1 billion with a B. At this point, Republicans control the presidency and both houses of Congress. That was pretty rare during this Gilded Age period. Some things they do, they pass the McKinley tariff. McKinley, like William McKinley, who will be president soon. These are the highest tariff rates ever in peacetime. So the farmers are extremely frustrated by this. Makes farmers really angry. Sherman Antitrust Act was several chapters ago, I think in 16, but it was passed. This chapter is kind of going back a little to talk about the politics. Remember, this is trying to regulate interstate commerce to try to control things like Standard Oil and those who are abusing their power. Because of these things, the next election cycle, there are big Democratic victories. So there's like a wave of Democrats trying to control Congress so that the farmers aren't being attacked with these tariff acts. They're very upset. Farmers alliances, talked about those before too, like the farmers alliances, the Grange are going to form into a political party called the Populist Party. So their frustrations over the tariff and things the Republican Congress are doing lead to this new political party. So it's called the Populist Party. You also see it called the People's Party. This will for sure appear somewhere on your AP exam. It's inevitable. So if you see a political cartoon and it said People's Party, it's the Populists. What you need to think of when you see either of those are farmers. It is the farmer political party where they're trying to address things that are hurting them. These are some of the things on that Omaha platform that they meet together and they say, we want this, 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 this. Some of it had never even been proposed before. It's very progressive, some of the things they're asking for. Silver is a big one. That's that hard versus soft money debate. Graduated income tax, which is what we have now, like the more you make, the more you pay in taxes. Direct election of senators, which will become the 17th Amendment during the progressive era. Government ownership of railroads, all kinds of stuff that for the time was ahead of its time. During the progressive era, Democrats and Republicans will take a lot of this stuff and end up getting it passed. Excuse me. They nominate a guy named Weaver, get a fair amount of votes, even though the party is going to end up dying out pretty soon. Big reason they're not able to be successful long-term is racial issues. They can't get white farmers and black farmers to come together under this populist umbrella to get people elected. So to finish up, Cleveland gets reelected in 1893, just in time for the worst financial panic of the century. So we said these happen every 20 to 30 years. Reason for this one, same as all the others, overbuilding, speculating on railroads, all of that stuff. So unemployment goes out the roof. The laissez-faire government says, sorry, I can't do anything. Meanwhile, the gold reserves, which had been piled up in his first term, are now running very thin. So in order to function, the government takes out a loan, from the banker JP Morgan, this robber baron that we saw from before. So he loans them money. This is like if the government was short on money, so the president asked Bill Gates to just slip him a few $1 million, $1 billion, whatever, to make it through the next quarter. There's a lot of frustration at Cleveland, like, why are you going to JP Morgan? It just shows the public that the government is in the hands of big business, even more so than they already thought, which is not a good look. So this election, we have McKinley for the gold standard. Republicans want gold and high tariffs. Democrats ditch Cleveland, nominate this guy, William Jennings Bryan. He is like the Henry Clay of the 1900s. So Henry Clay ran for president over and over and over and never won. That's William Jennings Bryan. So he is one of our APUSH immortals because it seems like he never dies. He is Iron Man, the immortal. Poor guy. He runs and runs and runs, never going to win. He does give a really famous speech. If you remember nothing else about him, know this speech because you could very easily see it as an excerpt for multiple choice. It's where he talks about why gold is bad for working class people. So the Democrats and the populists nominate William Jennings Bryan for president. Even with really two parties behind him, he's not able to win the presidency. McKinley wins the election. So to finish up, his campaign was funded by a guy named Mark Hanna. You see a lot of cartoons of him. So this is supposed to be him. He's extremely wealthy. He's a millionaire. And this is McKinley. He's just like his little puppet. So after McKinley's victory, the Republicans dominate for almost 20 years. They elect most of the presidents. They win Congress most of the time. Tariff issue comes back to the front. They raise it once again. And prosperity returns. The gold standard is solidified under McKinley. We are going to find more gold reserves in Alaska, which is going to help with that. But they termed McKinley the first modern president. This is where we really see a turning point, especially once we get to imperialism, start of time period 7, where for the first time we branch out from being just this isolated little country, and we're going to start looking to where we might be able to expand our territory. So that is it for chapter 19, and that's it for time period 6. So please let me know if you have any questions about anything, and y'all have a great day.